Okay, so we're back for another deep dive.
Always exciting.
Right. This time,
Yeah.
we're going to get into something that I think a lot of people are talking about. And
Definitely.
and that is the DC Cinematic Universe. In particular, the staying power, the sort of the fact that the Snyderverse just will not die.
It's true.
And we have an article here from comicbook.com titled "The Snyderverse Will Never Die." James Gunn just ensured that.
Ooh.
Now, this was published March 2nd, 2025.
Wow. So just recently.
Very recently.
Oh, okay.
By Brad Curran. And so we're going to unpack this and see, why that is.
Yeah, what's going on here? Why is this still a thing?
Why?
When it feels like Warner Brothers has tried to move on so many times.
Yeah.
And yet we can't get away from it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this discussion is fueled by this picture of James Gunn and Zack Snyder together.
Yeah, like that's the image that everyone's talking about right now.
So we're going to get into all of that right now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's dive in.
All right, let's do it.
So the photo itself, it's interesting just on the surface level.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you've got the new head of DC Studios hanging out with the previous guy, the one that they've said they're moving on from.
Right.
So that in and of itself is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it's really the caption that Gunn put with it. That's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
He's talking about Snyder as this consummate filmmaker.
Right.
And even a doubly consummate storyteller, which is a very specific.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Like, what is that supposed to mean? But it sounds
It
important.
sounds like he's given him a lot of credit.
Yeah.
He's given him some props.
He's not dismissing him at all.
Right.
It's not like, oh, this is Zach. We used to work together. It's like, this is Zach.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Right. And the article points out that this wasn't just a random run-in.
Yeah.
Gunn mentioned that Snyder was visiting DC Studios.
Interesting.
So he was there on official business of some kind. And
what was he doing there?
the article doesn't say.
Yeah.
But
he was there.
He was there for some reason.
Yeah.
And the thing that really kind of stood out to me that the article mentions is that they both knew that this photo was going to create a stir online.
Right. So this wasn't just like oh, hey, let's take a picture. This was a deliberate move to get people talking.
Right. Almost like a publicity stunt.
Yeah. Like why?
To sort of stir the pot.
Like why else would you post it?
Right. And the article even goes so far as to say that, this means that the Snyderverse and the fans who are so passionate about it are now just like a permanent fixture in the DC universe.
Yeah. Like you can't talk about DC without talking about Snyder.
Right.
And the Snyderverse and the fans who wanted to get like it's just part of the conversation now. It's always going to be there, which is really interesting because it feels like they've been trying to move away from it for so long.
Right. And it's almost like this acknowledgment that it's not going away.
Right.
So what do you think about all of that? I mean, just that initial reaction.
Well, I mean, as soon as that photo hit the internet,
Yeah.
all hell broke loose.
It's like the internet exploded.
Yeah, people were losing their minds.
What were some of the theories that were being thrown around?
Oh, my God. Well, immediately people were like, oh, my God, is Snyder coming back to the DCU?
Right.
Is he going to direct The Authority? Which would actually be kind of cool.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, like...
That's very much in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, like a more morally gray superhero team, you know? But then, of course, the other big theory was like, is this the beginning of the Snyderverse restoration? Like, is this it?
Is this what we've all been waiting for?
Yeah, exactly.
And just to clarify, for anyone who might not be, completely up on all of this, like when we talk about the hashtag restore the Snyderverse, it's bigger than just wanting more Zack Snyder films.
Right.
It's about those Justice League sequels that were planned.
Right, like the whole
kind of on the books.
Yeah, the whole roadmap that he had planned out that never came to be.
Right, and other projects that were part of that, like Ben Affleck's Batman.
Oh, yeah. What happened to that?
Yeah.
Like the Deathstroke movie that was supposed to happen.
Right, and even David Ayer's original Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other can of worms.
Like there's a lot of things that people are kind of hoping for.
Right.
And the article points out that even if this photo doesn't mean anything concrete is going to happen.
Right.
Like the sheer volume and the speed of the reaction online shows that the fan base has a lot of power to influence the conversation.
Absolutely. Like, you can't ignore 1.5 million tweets.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But that was a real thing that happened. Like, that's not nothing.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about that, because this isn't the first time this has happened.
No,
right?
Definitely not.
So Warner Brothers has tried to, move away from the Snyderverse before.
Oh yeah, many times.
And the article really kind of lays into them.
Yeah.
It describes their attempts as an abysmal failure.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with that. I mean, look what happened.
Well, so let's talk about it.
Okay.
So after Batman v Superman in 2016,
yeah,
it felt like they kind of had this mandate.
Yeah, they were like, okay, we need to pivot. This is not working.
This isn't what we wanted.
Right.
And so, of course, famously, we ended up with a very different Justice League in 2017.
Yeah.
After Zack Snyder stepped down from the project.
Right.
And that was, a whole thing.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting is that that's what sparked this whole movement.
Yeah.
To release the Snyder Cut.
The hashtag release the Snyder Cut movement.
Which is incredible if you think about it.
Yeah. It really is. Like, I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before.
Their fans have actually, forced a studio to release a different version of a film.
Right.
That's huge.
That's unprecedented.
Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, what was it about the Snyder Cut that kind of resonated with people so much?
Well, I think there were a lot of factors.
Okay.
First of all, I think people were genuinely curious to see Snyder's original vision.
Right.
Because the theatrical cut of Justice League
was a mess.
Kind of a mess.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it was very disjointed. Yeah. And it just didn't feel like a Zack Snyder film.
Right.
And people knew that he had shot a lot more footage than what ended up in the theatrical cut.
Right.
So there was this sense of there's a better movie out there somewhere.
Yeah.
We just need to see it.
Right. And I think also there was this element of just supporting Snyder. He had gone through a personal tragedy during the making of the film.
Right.
And I think people felt like he had been treated unfairly.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of sympathy for him. Right. And people wanted to see him be able to finish his vision.
Right. And what's crazy is that the studio released it.
I know.
They actually did it.
Yeah.
In 2021.
Who would have thought?
And it's 4 hours long.
Yeah, it's a behemoth.
It's a commitment.
Yeah.
And yet people watched it.
They did.
And they loved it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it wasn't just oh, this is interesting.
Right.
People were this is the definitive version of the film.
Right.
This is the one we should have gotten in the first place.
Right. And it wasn't just a small group of people.
No, it was a huge.
It was a phenomenon.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah. And so you would think that would be the end of it.
You would think so.
Right. Okay, they released the Snyder Cut.
Everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy now. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
But that's not what happened.
No, it actually kind of had the opposite effect.
Right, because then it became this whole hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
Right, people were like, okay, we got the Snyder Cut, now we want the sequels.
Right. Give us what we were promised.
Right, exactly.
And the article mentions that at one point this hashtag got 1.5 million tweets in a single day.
In a single day?
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's wild.
That's a lot of people who want this thing.
Yeah, and despite all of that, Warner Brothers is still nope, we're moving on.
Yeah. You're we hear you, but no, we're doing our own thing.
We have our own plans.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's really interesting because it shows you the power of fan movements.
Right.
We've seen this in other fandoms, too, where fans have been able to rally together and actually make a difference.
Right.
Get things changed.
Yeah, get things made that weren't going to be made.
Exactly. So I think it's a testament to the passion of the Snyderverse fans.
Right.
That they've been able to keep this conversation going for so long.
Right.
Even when it feels like the studio's trying to shut it down.
Yeah, and what's so crazy is that even though they're saying they're moving on,
right,
there's all these little connectors.
Yeah, it's they can't quite escape it.
They can't quite let go.
Yeah.
And the article mentions The Flash.
Oh, yeah.
As an example.
Yeah, there's all these references to the Snyder Cut.
Right.
In that movie.
Specific things that happened in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
That are referenced in The Flash.
Which is weird.
It's why?
Because they're supposed to be moving on from that.
So why are you referencing it?
Right.
If you're trying to move on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think is going on there?
Well, I think it's possible that some of the filmmakers within the DCEU were kind of inclined to acknowledge the Snyderverse.
Right.
You know, like maybe they felt like they couldn't just ignore it completely.
Like it was too big of a thing.
Yeah, like it had already established this big fan base
Right.
and these storylines that people were invested in.
Right.
So maybe they felt like they had to at least tip their hat to it.
Yeah.
You know?
And then, of course, there's the whole Henry Cavill situation.
Oh, yeah.
Which the article talks about as well.
Yeah, like what was that all about?
So he comes back as Superman in Black Adam.
Right. Everyone's going crazy.
Everyone's so excited.
Yeah, he's back. Superman's back.
The Snyderverse is back.
Right.
And then
nothing.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
I don't know. It's still a mystery.
Right. But the article says that,
Yeah.
this was a major disappointment for a lot of fans.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
And it feels like it's very connected.
Yeah.
To the legacy of Superman.
Right.
That was established in the Snyder films.
Right. Like that version of Superman that people loved.
Right.
Is gone now.
Yeah. So what do you make of all that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say for sure what happened behind the scenes.
Right.
But I think it's safe to say that the Snyderverse is still casting a long shadow over the DCU.
And what's so interesting is that even James Gunn,
right,
who's, trying to launch his own DCU.
Yeah, like a whole new thing.
Whole new thing.
Yeah.
He's not completely wiping the slate clean.
No, he's not.
The article points out that Peacemaker,
oh yeah,
which is a continuation of the Suicide Squad film,
right,
is still part of the picture.
Right.
And season 2 of Peacemaker is actually going to address where it fits in.
So it's going to deal with both the DCEU
right.
and the DCU. Like, how do those two things fit together? Which is a question that I think a lot of people have.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how they handle that.
Yeah. And they're even going to address that Justice League cameo.
Oh, yeah, for season 1?
From season 1.
Where it's like,
is that the Snyderverse Justice League?
Right.
Or is it the new DCU Justice League? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And the article's point is that the fact that they even have to address these questions means that the Snyder era is still relevant.
Right, like it's still on people's minds.
Yeah.
Like it's not just something that they can just sweep under the rug and pretend never happened.
Yeah. Right.
Like it's still very much a part of the cultural conversation.
Right. And so bringing it all back to that picture.
Yeah.
That really kind of sparked all of this.
Yeah.
The article argues that it's more than just two filmmakers catching up.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a tacit acknowledgement.
Yeah.
That the Snyderverse is still important.
Right.
And that the fans who want to see it completed aren't going away.
Right.
Like by posting that picture.
Yeah.
And by knowing that it was going to create this reaction.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, we hear.
Yeah, like we know you're out there.
We know you're out there.
We know you want this.
Right.
And we're not going to pretend like you don't.
Right. And the article really kind of nails it when it says that the Snyderverse has become the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Like anytime DC is mentioned, the Snyderverse is there.
It's lurking.
It's lurking. And any hint of Snyder's involvement, like even just this photo, creates this massive wave of speculation about his potential return.
Right.
So it's really put Warner Brothers and DC in a tough spot.
Yeah, because they're trying to move on.
Right.
But they can't escape the past.
Right. You know, and the article's conclusion is that by sharing that photo, Gunn has kind of permanently linked Snyder's name to the ongoing DC narrative.
Right.
So even if Snyder never comes back to direct another DC film, his legacy and the hope for the Snyderverse is always going to be there.
Yeah, it's like this unfinished symphony.
Right.
You know, like we heard the first movement, but we never got to hear the rest of it.
Right.
And now people are always going to be wondering
what could have been.
Yeah, what could have been.
Yeah. And the article even goes so far as to say that, you know, we shouldn't rule anything out.
Yeah.
Like after the whole Snyder Cut thing.
All right, like anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that, you know, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League are all on Max.
Yeah.
So you can watch those.
You can revisit them.
Yeah. And James Gunn's Superman is coming out on July 11th.
Yeah. So we've got that to look forward to.
So there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah.
In the DC universe.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting how this Snyderverse just keeps.
Yeah, it's like a zombie.
It just won't die.
It just keeps coming back.
Yeah. So yeah, this has been our deep dive.
Yeah.
Into the Snyderverse and why it just won't go away.
Right. And we've got more deep dives coming up.
Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed this discussion.
And subscribe.
Subscribe to the channel.
Yes, so you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
And let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
What are your other opinions?
We want to know.
On this whole Snyderverse situation.
Right. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
Is it ever going to come back?
Yeah. Is James Gunn going to bring it back?
Is this all leading to something?
Is this all just a clever ruse?
Yeah.
To get us all excited?
Maybe.
So yeah, this deep dive has been brought to you by The Other Opinion, your channel for insightful analysis.
Yes.
And alternative perspective.
That's right.
So yeah, to recap the core message of the article is that despite the studio's best efforts to move on, the Snyderverse is still a major part of the DC cinematic landscape.
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And it seems like James Gunn has kind of acknowledged that.
Yeah.
With this recent interaction with Zack Snyder.
Right. So the question is.
So here's our final thought for you.
Yeah.
Considering how much this Snyderverse still resonates with people.
Right.
And the fact that these cinematic universes are all so interconnected.
Yeah.
What are some ways that the Snyderverse might continue to shape DC's future?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Even if it's not in the way that fans initially hoped for.
Right.
Like, what kind of unforeseen consequences might there be?
What's going to happen that we don't even know about yet?
Right. And what does this whole saga tell us about the relationship between creator studios and passionate fan bases?
It's a fascinating dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, who has the power?
Yeah.
Really?
And how does that power shift and change over time? So, yeah, those are some things to think about.
Yeah, chew on those for a while.
Chew on those.
Yeah.
And let us know your thoughts in the comments.
We want to know.
We want to know.
What do you think?
And for more in-depth discussions like this, be sure to check out The Other Opinion.
Yes.
Like this video.
Yes.
Share it with your friends.
Tell everyone.
And subscribe to the channel for more.
Yes, please subscribe.
Content like this.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Just a quick note before we go.
Yeah.
This deep dive was produced using AI.
That's right.
To analyze and synthesize information.
Yeah.
From the article that we discussed.
Right.
So while we try to be as accurate as possible, it's always a good idea to consult the original source material.
Yeah. Do your own research.
Do your own research.
Don't just take our word for it.
And consider different perspectives.
Right.
So
there you go.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
On The Other Opinion.
Yeah.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
Please.
And we'll see you next time.